Come make a pumpkin pie with me right in time for the holidays. So you're gonna first get 2 very cold sticks of butter out, which is a half a pound, and you're gonna cut it into little chunks, and then I like to separate them once they get into the bowl so they're not as big chunks. And then you're gonna add 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, a half a tablespoon of sugar, and a half a teaspoon of salt. And then you use a pastry blender to just blend that into the flour a little bit better, and so that there's not huge chunks of butter within the flour. And while I'm doing this, I like to just feel the flour and make sure that there's not huge chunks within. If there are, I like to just dice them up real quick. After I mix that pretty well, I get out ice cold water and I add about 7 tablespoons of water to the dough starting off. And I just see how my dough reacts to that. Most times it needs a little bit more water, so I'll add a little bit more and then I'll make a dough ball out of that. And I'll make sure to not over mix it just because you want to have chunks of butter within your dough to make it that flaky crust. At this point, you're going to want to make sure that your oven is preheated to 400 degrees, and then you're going to roll out your pie crust onto your pie pan and just cut off the rest. I like to save the excess to make cute little designs on top, but that's totally optional. And then you're going to add parchment paper and pie weights onto your pie, and then you're going to bake it for 15 minutes. While your pie crust is baking, you want to add 150 grams of brown sugar, a tablespoon of flour, a half a teaspoon of ginger, a half a teaspoon of salt, a quarter teaspoon of allspice, 2 eggs, and then 1 egg yolk, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 180 grams of heavy whipping cream, along with 1 can of pumpkin puree. You're gonna mix that pretty well, and then I just let this sit aside while I'm waiting for my pie to bake. This is when you're gonna pour your filling into your pie crust, and then I use the excess to make a braided pie crust topper, and then I add in some pie crust sleeves, and then you're gonna wanna put an egg wash over the pie crust just to make sure it's that golden color. And then after it bakes at 350 degrees for 35 to 40 minutes, your pie is almost done and it comes out looking beautiful. While I let the pie cool, I like to make homemade whipping cream, which is honestly just eyeballed, so I added a little bit of heavy whipping cream, some vanilla, and some brown sugar and cinnamon. And I whip that on high until it makes soft peaks. And then once that's done whipping, you're able to add this on top of your pie, and it just adds a lot of flavor, and I think it tastes really great on top. And now you and your family can enjoy your homemade pumpkin pie. Happy holidays!